of August 24th, 2020 to order. Will you call the roll, please?
Trustee Guyer.
Here.
Trustee Spurling. Trustee Spurling.
Here.
Trustee Lee.
Yes.
Trustee Youngerman.
Here.
Trustee Marisak.
Here.
And Trustee Betzinger.
Here. Wow. It's the first time in a while. All right, welcome. We'll move right into the public participation.
We need to note the part that the meeting's being conducted both
Oh,
in
yeah,
person.
I skipped right over that important part. So, yeah, due to the governor's proclamation and the global pandemic, we are conducting this meeting virtually and in person. So any member of the public that wanted to make comments tonight had, I think, 3 avenues. They could either email you questions, call you with questions, or join the meeting tonight and ask questions. And so that's a perfect segue into public comment period. Has anybody done any of those 3 this evening?
We have not received any public comment. I let you all know that I thought we had somebody who was going to come in person. After talking to staff today, they decided not to come to the board at this time.
Okay. Perfect. All right, so hearing none, I'll go ahead and move on to the consent agenda. I'll read the items and entertain a motion for approval. We have minutes of the village board meeting of August 10th, accounts payable through August 20th, accounts receivable for May of 2020, accounts receivable for June of 2020, accounts receivable for July of 2020, the water production report for July of 2020, Ordinance 1883 granting a special use amendment for outdoor cafe at Grandma's Table, second reading. And then item H, Ordinance 1884 granting a special use for outdoor cafe, that's at Poor Boys, and that's also second reading.
Motion to approve?
Second. Go ahead.
Trustee Marisak.
Yes.
Trustee Betzinger.
Yes.
Trustee Guyer.
Yes.
Trustee Spurling.
Yes.
Trustee Lee.
Yes.
And Trustee Youngerman.
Yes. All right, I carry 6-0, thank you. All right, if there's no objections, I would like to bounce around just a little bit to go into items for discussion. It's the liquor license request that we received and invite the applicant to join the meeting at this point, and I would turn it over to Administrator Zolfel for introduction of this item.
Thank you very much. The letter from the requester was in your packets. They are looking to take over the nail salon that was previously been known as Bellagio Salon, and they would like to be able to offer wine, sparkling wine, to their clients as part of that. We do currently have a Class N license, which is for salons or day spas, which does allow for this. I have talked to the petitioner and let them know that, after discussion tonight, you may have some questions for them, and then, as always, we'd look to you guys to see if you are in favor of moving forward with this request, if you are opposed to the request, or if you would like further information. The requester is here tonight for any questions you have, and with that, I'll turn it over to you guys.
Hello.
Hi,
Hello, everyone.
go ahead.
Would you like to give a little statement about your business and what you'd like to do?
So this is my,
Go ahead.
okay, so this is my business partner, Andy Tran. I'm Din. So we took on the business during the pandemic. And so we would like to offer some of our top-end services with glass wine. We have a limit amount of wine we given out. So we a maximum of 2 drinks. So we hope that you guys will be open to allow us to serve wine in our nail salon.
All right, thank you. So at this point, we typically have our 3 choices. We're interested, we're not interested, or we need more information, or anything else that the board can think of. So if you have thoughts, I'd love to hear them.
I have no issues with the request.
I have a question, if I may. Do you have any other locations?
No, this will be our first location.
I have no concerns as well.
Okay.
I have no concerns.
I'm good to move forward with it.
Yeah, I'm fine.
Well, that's easy. I did have one question. Are you guys looking to install video gaming in this location?
No, no, sir.
Okay. All right, with that, I think we would flip this back to our staff to have them find a way to modify our liquor ordinance to create one that works for this use, and then pending background checks and all that kind of stuff, we'll proceed.
All right.
Okay?
We'll
Thank you,
reach out
sir.
to you tomorrow then, okay?
Very much.
All right, thank you, appreciate it.
Thank you.
Thank you for being here.
Good luck.
Thank you.
All right, so I'll go ahead and move on to items for separate action this evening. We have ordinance 1885, disconnecting certain property from SSA 18 at Marquee Point. This is waiver first, passage on the second. Attorney Julian?
Okay, yes, thank you. So this item is to remove a parcel from the SSA in Marquee Point. The parcel belongs to Oswego Land Park District. And first and foremost, I wanted to clarify some questions that had come up with regard to exhibit references. The sixth whereas clause, it should actually say Exhibit 1 instead of Exhibit A. And there's differences in numbers because the prior ordinance that established the SSA used A and A1, and our practice is usually to use letters, but because it got confusing referencing two Exhibit As, we changed it, but we did miss that spot. So the sixth whereas clause is actually referencing the land that gets taken out, and that's what the exhibit is for this ordinance. And then the other references are the actual entire area that was established by the prior ordinance. And staff believes, after talking to the Park District, that this land was erroneously included, and what had happened was initially this was supposed to be a residential area, and then due to changes in development conditions, this land ended up being swapped, and now the park area is included in the SSA area, which was never the intended purpose in the first place. So now, after talking to the Park District and staff, they believe that it's appropriate to remove it because it wasn't actually intended to be included in the SSA as the Park District land in the first place. With that, I have any questions?
Questions? Motion?
So moved.
Second?
Trustee Youngerman.
Yes.
Trustee Marisak.
Yes.
Trustee Betzinger. Trustee Guyer.
Yes.
Trustee Spurling.
Yes.
And Trustee Lee.
Yes.
All right, and that carries with 5 votes. Thank you. Item B this evening is ordinance 1886, accepting a water main easement for Kaufman's. This is waiver first, patches on the second. Director Wolf?
Thank you, President Browley. So the board may recall that the village started a design project for water main replacement on the Route 31 corridor, extending from Ashland Avenue, going north to basically the village limit line, and then connecting to a water main that was installed as part of the ATMI property in order to create a loop of the water main. This project is we're still working through the process, trying to regain or capture easements from the 5 businesses that are along and going to be affected by this. So part of the design, we decided that we wanted to make an attempt to move the water main from its current location farther into the properties in which we're trying to get easements from in order to create a little bit of ease on our part from removing ourselves from the state right away. So this again is for specifically for the Kaufman's easement that has already been completed, but also will be looking to gain 4 additional easements from the other property owners. So this ordinance, would allow Engineer Wallers to have the ability to accept those easements that are still forthcoming. So if there's any questions, I'm happy to answer those.
Did you just say that this work was done?
It has not been done yet.
Okay,
no.
it's not been done.
Mark, how much of that is in the state right? Or we're trying to move them out of the state right away? Is that what you said?
Correct. We're trying to move the new proposed water main remove it from the right of way. which is why we need the easements from the property owners in order to do that.
Okay, thank you.
Are we paying for this easement at all?
No.
Okay. And I mentioned this to Jeff earlier. Sorry, I keep having to mute myself because it's getting feedback. As long as we're not paying for easements, you know, I'm okay approving this so that staff can sign off on the rest of the 4 easements for this. But if we get into a situation where we have to write somebody a check, I think it should come back to the board. All right, any other comments or questions? Is there a motion?
So moved.
Go ahead.
Trustee Marisak.
Yes.
Trustee Betzinger.
Yes.
Trustee Guyer.
Yes.
Trustee Spurling.
Yes,
Trustee Lee.
Yes.
And Trustee Youngerman.
Yes.
All right, that carries 6-0. Thanks, Mark. I look up and Mark had changed. All right. Item C this evening is 1887, authorizing the issuance of $15 million in general obligation alternate bonds for the purpose of financing a new public works facility and refunding our outstanding alternate bonds. This is waiver of first, passage on the second. Go ahead.
Thank you, President Brawley. In front of the board tonight is an ordinance authorizing the issuance of $15 million of general obligation alternate revenue bonds. The village was presented with an opportunity to refund the 2011 bonds to save on interest due to the low rates right now. In effect, this actually allows the village to move principal payments that we have on existing debt and proceed with a new public works building earlier. The space needs study is progressing well, but we have come to the realization that the original $8 million budget is too low. Staff will bring the completed space needs back to the board to determine what is included and what is not. So the $15 million, there's roughly $2 million that is going to be used to refund the 2011 bonds, and then new money of $13 million. Again, we needed to include a maximum amount in the ordinance, but it does not mean we're going to issue that entire amount.
So we're not obligated to issue any amount.
We are not obligated to issue any.
Okay. Is the 2 million in bonds that we currently have out there, is that all of the bonds that we have out now? Not, I guess, water's in a different bucket, but outside of that, what other bonds do we have?
We have 2 bonds outstanding right now, 2011 bonds at $2.1 million and 2014 bonds at $3.3 million. They're paid for with utility taxes. Currently, the last payment, the last principal payment, would be due on December 1st of 2024. That totals
Are these,
$5 million.
Justin, are these bonds for the city hall and jail extended out?
The 2011 and 2014 bonds, this is the original date that they would have been paid off, is 2024.
Are those the 2 bonds in question? Were they for City Hall, for Village Hall, and the police station?
Yes, that is
Okay.
correct.
Those are the bonds, okay.
If we refund the 2 million, we're extending the life of that debt?
We would extend the life of that debt. But save money.
It's a net savings, although we just do pay it a little bit longer, allows us to build a public works facility 2 years earlier, basically.
Yes.
Okay.
That was my question. When, I understand we're going through the workspace needs analysis now. When do you think that the project could be shovel-ready for a new public works facility?
Shovel-ready to actually start building it would be in the spring.
Spring of '21?
Yes.
Wow, okay.
what we're looking at right now is the space needs analysis coming back to the board in September.
Okay. Thank you.
Can you kind of?
Justin, how about, what other bonds do we have out there? We got the one for the Boulder Hill Water. Other bonds are left.
So in addition to the 2011 and 2014 bonds, we have two others, 2013 bonds and 2017. They're paid for with the net water and sewer revenue. And the last payment on those bonds is December 1st of 2038.
Yeah.
2038. What happened to the bond that when I am leaving as my trustee, I was going to have two bonds paid off on 2020? Are those the ones you're talking about? That's 2011, and we keep kicking them down the road because of the interest rates, but we haven't paid those off, right? I mean, that's still City Hall and the jail, right?
The
Kick them down the
2011,
road again for another couple of years.
the 2011 bonds and 2014 bonds, to my knowledge, that is the original maturity date is 2024.
We refunded them but didn't extend the time frame.
Right.
Say that again.
We refunded them previously, but did not extend the time frame. This, what we're looking at doing would extend the time frame slightly.
Yeah. Okay.
What's the downside, and I'm kind of going off Denny's question, what's the downside if we were able to extend the payment terms and pay less? They're essentially asking for less money over a longer period of time, correct?
Due to the interest rates right now, where the interest rates are at, that's how we arrive at the savings on those 2011 bonds.
Thank you.
So can you walk through the process going from today to the day that we actually issue this amount of bond, whatever the amount is? How long is that timeline? Not how short can it be, but what's the longest that time frame could be? Because here's my worry, is that we're not done with the space needs yet. We're trying to capitalize on like seriously low interest rates, and financially, it sounds like a solid move to do this now. But when is that project gonna be finished? And how soon before we really know how much it's gonna cost to do that before we issue those bonds?
At the end of the space needs analysis, we should have a fairly good idea of number on the cost of the building. We won't know for sure until they actually go through and start designing the building.
Which, I guess, do we have a proposal from them for that yet? Do we have a timeline as when they'll be done with that? I mean, are we just gonna bond $13 million and hope that it comes back at that? I mean, how does that process look?
So, right now, August 24th is adoption of the authorizing ordinance. We would have a BINA hearing, a Bond Issue Notification Act hearing on September 14th. And then the bond sale would be October 12th, with the board adopting a bond ordinance that same day. That timeframe can extend past the October 12th date. That is just that's the preliminary timetable that we have right now.
I have a question for Engineer Wallers. What I'm seeing in the construction industry now is that we're seeing a lot of bids are coming in very competitive and really below. I guess they're so competitive, they're a lot lower than they typically would be. Are you seeing that as well?
We have a fairly diverse amount of bids that we do. I would say generally they have been pretty competitive, has been our observation. I don't know if we've seen any patterns yet that tell us. Part of the thing is in certain sectors, we see that there's still a lot of work out there, for example, transportation. So we're not seeing like extremely low bids. We don't do, frankly, a lot of buildings, so I can't really comment on buildings, but we've been seeing pretty good prices on underground and competitive prices on transportation, but not crazy low prices, I guess is how I would put it.
Thank you.
As I had stated previously, the preliminary timetable shows October 12th for the bond sale. That can be pushed back indefinitely. So if the board is not comfortable with doing that right now, we can move that timeline back to a later date.
And there's no scenario where we lock an interest rate anytime before we sell. So if interest
No.
rates climb before October 12th, we might not pull the trigger, which they won't climb, is what Spear was saying, right? Likely.
Right.
Okay, but if we were to push this until next year sometime, right before construction, we can end up paying a lot more to where we couldn't even do the project.
It is a possibility that interest rates could move by next year, yes.
Okay. All right, any other questions? Tom?
Justin?
I think Teresa's got one.
Yes.
So this ordinance is really just allowing us to move forward if the conditions are favorable.
That is
If,
correct.
if we have that scenario where the interest rates move up, I mean, obviously, it's not going to be beneficial to us, so we wouldn't. It's just strictly an authorization to move forward if the situation is favorable for the village.
That is correct.
Okay. I was just looking for clarification. Thank you.
And can you explain where the 15 number came from? I mean, we said the 8 that was projected for that space was too low, 2 for retiring of the old issuance. So then is that an $11 million building with $2 million in soft costs and FF&E, or where's the number coming from? Because to me, you're a little cart before the horse.
So right now, we do have estimates on the building. They're roughly $10 million to $13 million.
What's the square
building.
footage on that size facility that we're looking at?
52,500 square feet.
And what's that cost per square footage? I'm not the math. At 10 million? Anybody quick on math? Come on, somebody.
180, maybe.
I'm still trying to get my calculator open.
190.
Okay.
What do you mean 190?
$10 million?
Oh, I'm doing 13 million, so I thought I'm getting 247.
But the idea behind the 13 million is, or 15 million is, we're setting the high threshold.
We are hoping that
We're
that's
certainly,
high threshold, yes.
no, we're not hoping.
Okay.
We're designing the building.
designing it,
So it's
that's
not a hope. It's sometimes you can't afford the leather interior.
Yes.
Yeah, if it's 300, square foot, I don't see that happening, but, okay.
When's the space needs due?
The space needs analysis is due in September.
I'd be more of the mindset to see what that says and have us see that before we vote on this. I think what we would be doing now is serving this up to the community and having somebody have 60 days to object to a plan that we haven't even seen yet. I understand the financial reasons why we would do this, but unfortunately, the world that we live in, we have to be cognizant of dotting our i's and crossing our t's before we kind of move forward on something like that. Plus, I have the stable interest rates hopefully on my side, in that in September they won't have increased. I don't know what Spear has told you in the next month, 60 days. What do they look like? They're likely not going up.
They're likely not going up anytime soon.
And if they do, it's not going to be,
Right.
the cost savings to me doesn't outweigh the benefit of being a little bit conservative and reserved and knowing actually what we're going to issue bonds for before we issue those bonds.
And I guess I'm confused because you've both mentioned about the cost savings, but yet there's actually no cost savings until we actually sell the bonds.
Correct.
So this, voting on this, not voting on this, doesn't really affect our financial position. That's impacted by when we sell them. Correct. Okay. Then I'm in favor of tabling it for now as well.
All right. Dan, anything?
Yeah, I'm good with tabling it, just as long as we don't kick the can too far down the road and we stay on top of it. We needed a new public works facility 20 years ago. I mean, how many guys are using one bathroom over there? It's just, I get it, and I agree, we can wait, but I don't want to wait too long to where we get in the position where we're going to wait another year before we build the facility. I think it's badly needed now. We have a lot of assets sitting outside in the rain and the snow and the elements. And quite frankly, we probably replace equipment sooner than we need to, just because it's sitting out in the elements
Right.
Well,
and
and
rusting away. So
along those lines, this doesn't impact, our decision to table this doesn't impact anything because we're still waiting for the space needs analysis. How quickly, once we see that report, can we pull this back up and vote on it?
There is a 30-day wait period after the authorizing ordinance before you could actually issue the bonds.
Okay.
Right, but this could be on for the
This could
same
come back
agenda.
September, in
Yes.
October, there could be an issuance.
Yeah.
So,
Okay.
Yes.
And I think that, I think this might have been the first public meeting that we had talking about the need. Well, we talked about the space needs a little bit that night, but really conveying to the public that we need a facility. I mean, we park vehicles outside in the winter and the summer, and this will ensure that we're investing in the community and, you know, and the equipment that we have. So I think we're gonna have a lot more public comments on this, or public input on this over the next year or less. But-
Well, and I'm not really comfortable because we're doing a waiver of the first passage, you know, and on the $15 million bond that the public's unaware of until
Mhm.
tonight's meeting, so.
Yeah, yes, so I'm hearing loud and clear that we'll table this to a future meeting. I also do want to thank our finance director for putting this on the agenda, because that is entirely, you know, the goal of what you do is to ensure that you're saving us every penny that we can, and put that into things that the public needs. So I appreciate you bringing it to us, and I'll appreciate it when you bring it back again, too. So,
Understood.
all right, thanks, Justin.
Thank you.
All right, so we don't need a vote on that. We're going to, sorry, I lost my spot. All right, so item C, we tabled, no action, future meeting. All right, last item for separate action is Resolution 2020-021, authorizing a stationary food vendor license. Director Young?
Thank you, Mr. President. Tonight, you have the item for George's Chicago Hot Dogs that's requesting approval of a stationary food vendor license to be located in the general vicinity of 1800 Douglas Road. This is the parking lot that is currently owned by U-Haul, located between the West Suburban Branch Bank and the former Pizza Hut building. Staff has spoken to U-Haul, and they have granted permission to allow this use to take place. This would be, as I mentioned, a stationary food vendor license. By resolution, each year you look at the village board looks and approves stationary food vendor licenses. This would be the third one for this calendar year. Attaches a resolution in your packet that outlines the list of the other two locations that we have stationary food vendors. There was some confusion over the fact that this use has already been established without the consent of the village and without the knowledge of the village staff. We've met with the applicant, requested that he show proof of a license from Kendall County, which he has done. And I might also add that he established this use with a temporary three-sided tent structure, and U-Haul has said that they do not want that to be left up overnight if this is approved. So he has removed that structure and put in place in its stead a couple of umbrellas, and that's the way he'd like to go about his business. We could have shut this down and just said you don't have the proper licensing, but we asked him to file this application for review by the village board tonight and go forward from there.
Thank you. Comments from the board, questions?
I appreciate the staff working with the vendor instead of just citing them and telling them to go home. And I don't have an issue with the application.
Director Young,
Yes.
so this was the one I had about, right?
Yes,
When I-
ma'am. Yes.
Okay. Yeah, because I was confused. I thought this was the one that was approved a couple meetings ago, but that's further north on Douglas?
That's correct, yes.
Okay. All right, thank you.
As I previously stated with the last one with the taco stand, this is actually almost in the parking lot of the Lucky's facility, which I believe was recently purchased. So I'm against putting somebody that has no overhead costs, it's a $100 permit fee, no wastewater, no water, no electrical bill, no property tax bill, to put them in, virtually in the parking lot of a brick and mortar building that's gonna try to open and establish himself in our community. So I'm against it.
All right, Steve?
I agree with Doug. I'm against it as well.
Dan?
Yeah, I drove by today, and he's in a van with a pull-behind trailer, and the umbrellas are attached to the trailer. I didn't look like it was going to be anything that was gonna take away anything from a brick and mortar. He's just a small setup. I was there and took a couple of pictures, and I parked in a adjoining parking lot for about a half an hour, did some stuff on my phone, and nobody even came by in that time. He's opened up, like 3 hours a day, seasonally. I don't know, my opinion is, if a brick and mortar is put out of business by a hot dog stand, I think they got bigger problems than the hot dog stand. There's a whole different clientele that goes to like a hot dog stand. I've never been to one because I'm more of a go in a restaurant and have a meal. Typically, I see like contractors stop by and just grab a bite and keep going, or UPS guy, in the middle of his route, just needs a little pick-me-up or something like that. So I really don't have a problem with the food vendors. Now, if we get too many in one area where it starts to look bad, I would have a problem with that, but I think he's far enough away from the other one that's further north on Douglas that I don't think I would have a problem issuing him the permit.
All right. Denny, you still on there?
Anyone really familiar with the menu at Dairy Queen? Are they serving hot dogs?
Yes. Yeah, I believe that they do serve hot
So
dogs.
this food truck would be competing of our established restaurants right across the street.
can't say that it won't be. I tend to side with Dan and Tom on this, that, while, especially in this time, every sale at every restaurant is probably, critical and vital to the success of your restaurant. I'm not convinced that, a taco stand or a hot dog stand that is open a few hours a day is gonna put you out of business. It is unfortunate that the parking lot is, and it's one massive parking lot. You're off the property, I looked at it today, but you appear to be so much closer because there's no fences, there's no green space, you're in the same area. But at the same time, if the owner of that property is willing and okay with this and signs the application, I'm not opposed to it.
I'm sorry, Matt, what was you said you're for it?
Correct.
And the owner of the property is U-Haul, correct?
That's correct.
So it's not Lucky's. I actually thought that this, when I drove past over the weekend,
I thought
this was a preview for the folks that are opening Lucky's. And from what I gather, the folks from Lucky's aren't very happy about this.
There is a smaller portion, it's a sea of parking out there, so it's hard to distinguish what's the property line, if you will, between what is Lucky's parking area and what is the massive amount of parking that originally went along with the shopping center that U-Haul has acquired. Initially, the applicant thought that he was going to be dealing with West Suburban Bank because he's in an area where the parking is just south of West Suburban Bank. But that parking is part of the U-Haul owned property. The bank really doesn't have any significant amount of parking for whatever reason. That was approved, 30 years ago. I can't speak to why there wasn't parking requirements for the bank. It's very limited. So the bottom line is the property is owned, even though it's close to the old Pizza Hut location, it is owned by U-Haul.
Not that it matters, but the way that you phrased that, did the applicant just set up shop and start selling hot dogs without contacting anybody?
The applicant set up shop after my understanding is the applicant set up shop after he talked to West Suburban Bank, and West Suburban Bank told him it was fine.
Oh, okay. All right.
Has this guy been in any location in Aurora where he should have known he had to talk to the municipality than just some store next to him?
I don't know, Trustee Lee, if he's operated in Aurora or not. I know that in the past, he's operated at, he's reported to have operated at private parties or gatherings and also at farmers markets. But I don't know if that includes the farmers markets that have been in Aurora. I can't answer that.
Okay.
Yeah, that was the other thing that was on the, I did see where he called the event a farmer's market, and he just has various times that he would be open. Should we move forward with this, do we have hours set for the food trucks or the food stands, whatever we're calling them? Do we have hours set for them, Rich, in the ordinance?
We don't typically set hours in the resolution that I'm aware of, but I'd have to check with Attorney Julian. I don't believe that that has been established in our previous two stationary food vendor license requirements. So I'm looking at her now and she's shaking her head no. So I believe that that's correct, that we do not have set hours. We could certainly set hours for this location if that was the desire of the board.
No, I don't think we need to get into micromanaging their operation. I mean, they're running off of a generator, presumably. I mean, they're not gonna be selling tacos at 2 in the morning, or hot dogs, sorry. Yeah. And I'm not overly concerned that these amazing hot dogs will, put anything out of business. So I think some competition in this regard will be just fine.
And just to clarify, I never meant to imply that they're going to put our brick and mortar people out of business.
Right.
I feel it's unfair competition, since they don't have any of the costs associated with our brick and mortars, i.e. taxes, water bills, all of those costs are not affiliated, so they have a little bit of a competitive edge against them.
Right. I mean, and we've debated this before in conversations. I think the difference is it's a different clientele, a different person that's headed here that might be otherwise driving over to McDonald's, you know, to buy a quick bite. I mean, I'm not taking my family there out for dinner or that kind of thing. And we haven't had any issues with the other several that we've had at this point. You know, they come, they sell. Some are better than others, but at least it's providing some opportunity for residents, and we're supporting, you know, startup businesses in town, because who knows, maybe this turns into a brick and mortar building someday. All right, any other comments? We can actually vote on this, so why don't we just do that? Is there a motion?
I'll make a motion to approve.
Is there a second?
Second.
All right, there's been a motion and a second. Any discussion? All right, call the roll.
Trustee Guyer,
Yes.
Trustee Spurling,
No,
Trustee Lee,
Yes.
Trustee Youngerman,
No.
Trustee Marisak,
No.
and Trustee Betzinger.
Yes.
Call on me.
President Raleigh.
Yes. All right, that carries 4-3. I never get to vote, so I just wanted to hear you say it. All right, thank you all, I appreciate it.
Thank you.
All right, anything new or unfinished to come?
Matt, at the end of the year, we do some kind of surveillance on all our stationaries.
Well, that's essentially correct.
Okay.
They need to renew each year. The way the resolution is set up is that it would be done, once it's initially approved by the village board each year, then
Right.
Administratively, we could approve for the next year. If there was a concern raised by the village
Okay.
board for a specific use, then the staff could reject the application for the subsequent year.
Can I paraphrase
Okay,
Trustee Lee's
thank you.
surveillance to, that we audit the business at the end of the year?
All right, Denny, thanks. Anything new or unfinished coming out of the Lee household? All right, hearing none.
I have a couple of questions. One is, there's been a lot of, I talked to Justin earlier today, a lot of Facebook chatter related to water bills being high, and so I just kind of wanted to put it out there so the 7 people listening to the meeting are aware that we did have the increase August 1st, and that we do have everybody still at home. So this goes, that water cycle, I think you said, was from May 15th to July 15th. So middle of the summer heat, people at home, along with the increase, may be why people are feeling like there's a little bit of a spike. So I just wanted to kind of, since there was so much chatter about it, I wanted to put it out there.
City at 7.
Oh, MEDC golf outing. September 10th is this MEDC golf outing. Char's working diligently. We have about 60, I believe, currently. So it's looking like it's going to be a great event. So she works really hard on putting that together for us.
Where's that?
That is at Bliss Creek this year. I think this is our third year, second or third year. They do a great job for us out there, and it's one of the partners in Bliss Creek is actually a local property owner as well.
Really good food.
Yes, I remember that from years ago. Anything else? All right, I'm not going to wait too long. Future meetings, it sounds like there will be a plan commission meeting on September 3rd, and then the next village board meeting in this room on Monday, September 14th. Can I get a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Second.
Trustee Youngerman,
Yes.
Trustee Marisak,
Yes.
Trustee Betzinger, Trustee Guyer,
Yes.
Trustee Spurling,
yes.
and Trustee Lee.
Yep.
All right, we're adjourned. Thank you.
Thank you. Bye.